Okay. Oh, good morning, ladies, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, uh, Here we are as members of POSTU, and this is an initiative that was started basically to help out teachers of the science fraternity. I am Tugume Benison. I am the National Vice Chairperson of UPSTU, and this evening we are delighted to have one of the prominent councils who is going to take us through our professional rights. We are going legal in every society that we live in. And as teachers, we have rights that we need to protect. And as well, we need to be guided not to make mistakes. And this evening, we have one of our best, who is called the Council Masika, Sandra, who will be taking us through this discussion. At this moment, we welcome different members from UPSTU SEC and NEC. We have members like Mungati Sise, who is our national treasurer. I can see we have other members like Luima Edward, who is a member of this committee that he was entrusted with preparing at least food for our members. And this is the food that we are enjoying this evening. We welcome Reverend Akizon, I can see online. Without wasting much of the time, I want to let us know that we are going to use approximately 1 hour. So at around 9, we shall be finishing. And at this moment, let me not take much of the time. Most people are very anxious to listen to counsel and have some time for discussion at the end, because I know many people have questions. As a member of this committee, which is called Education, Professional Standards and Disciplinary Committee, which is the one behind this arrangement, we say that teachers first. We have to protect our teachers. We have to guide them in ethics. And with the ethics, even if however much you know your ethics, you can go wrong about the law. And to protect us and equip us to always be alert, we have brought our own vibrant council, Masika, Sandra, and you are welcome to start sharing the package you have for us with the members of Uganda Professional Science Teachers Union. You're welcome, Sandra.
Thank you. Yes, so I've already been introduced, like you've heard. My name is Sandra Masika. I am a principal associate with Diamond Advocates, and I'm one of the lawyers for Uganda Professional Science Teachers Union, because we as Diamond Advocates, we represent all the legal interests of the union. So I'm the one who always sits here every Monday and Thursday. So I am honored to be hosted today, and I thank God for this time. So because we have limited time, I'm going to go straight to the point, right? So basically, like we were told, we're having legal insights for teachers. And I'm just giving the agenda. It's just going to be an introduction. Then I'm going to talk about the rights of workers, then also the role of labor unions in dispute resolution, and then also the role of labor officers in dispute resolution. And then I'll also talk about the role of industrial courts and other courts in the administration of labor justice. Then I can also talk about the challenges to administration of labor justice in Uganda. Yeah, so basically that is what I'm going to talk about. So, you see, the government of Uganda recognizes the rights and the role of workers to national growth. And as such, several legal and policy frameworks have been put in place to guarantee rights of workers. Well, and this is provided for under Article 40 of the Constitution of Uganda, that is the 1995 Constitution of Uganda, which provides for the protection of workers' rights. And then this includes recognition of just and favorable conditions of work. So for one to be considered a worker or employee, there should be a contract of service. This is where a person agrees to work for an employer in return for remuneration in form of wages. So, and all this is embedded in the Employment Act, CAP 226. So I just wanted to highlight on that. I know you might not know this, but I'm literally talking about the rights of workers, but I'm going to try to zero this down to teachers because I am addressing teachers today. So as a teacher, whether primary school, secondary school, or university, you must always ensure that when you are appointed, you are, it's a contract of service, and you must also make sure that you are given a contract to the same. Once you don't have a contract or an appointment to the same, then you cannot qualify to say that you are a teacher. Other factors constant. Well, because there are other cases that have come up where someone does not have a contract, but then they have evidence of bank statements showing that they're being paid by their employer. So court sometimes looks at that evidence that you show, but what is the measure to show that you are a worker, that show that you are an employee? You must be working on a contract of service. This is different from a contract for service. Please get me well. There's a contract of service and a contract for service. A contract of service entails an employer-employee relationship. This means that you have been hired, you have been appointed, you have been given a contract to work as an employee, and you know the terms of the the terms of the contract, you know the wages you're going to be paid. But a contract for service means that you are actually hired as an independent contractor, basically to do a certain activity or a certain job at a specified time, and once you're done with it, you leave the premises or you leave the workplace. So you're not permanently employed like someone who would say like an employee. You're literally coming to do a certain specific something that you're supposed to do. So there you'll be hired as an independent contractor. Now that is what it means that is what it means to be under a contract for service. Okay, and then we know that for national development to take place, the government must work closely with employers and workers under the tripartite principle, right? So after that introduction, first of all, I've told us for you to call yourself a worker, you must be operating under contract of service. I've also differentiated the contract of service from a contract for service, which I believe most of us are under the contracts of service because we are employed and we have appointment letters, we have employment contracts and all that. So as a worker, as a teacher, and I think this is why this session is really important, because we as lawyers, we actually get to realize that most people out there don't know their rights as employees or as employers, right? So, and these rights are actually all embedded in the Employment Act. Like I told you, it's CAP 226. So, as a teacher, as a worker, you have a right not to be subjected to forced or compulsory labor. You have a right to say no to your head teacher if they forcing you or they're saying you must carry on a certain workload, which you're not supposed to do. First of all, the contract that you sign, the appointment letter usually has the terms that you will follow at your duty. So everything you do should correspond with what is in the contract of service, the contract of appointment, the contract that you signed. So once you realize that you're being forced or to carry on a certain activity or you're being forced to do a certain workload, you must be alert and know that, you know what, I have a right, and the Employment Act protects me not to be forced to any compulsory labor. So that is one right. And then I'm sure this, you know about it. You also have a right to take time off from work. Can take a weekly rest, an annual leave, maternity leave. And by the way, for the women, the leave is 60 days, right? 60 days is for the females, and then 4 days for the males, right? Even when you get sick, you are entitled to a sick leave. You know, you're not a machine. We all get sick sometimes. Yeah. So those are the rights that you can have: a right to a sick leave and all that, sick leave, weekly rest, annual leave, as a teacher, as a worker. Then you also have a right to a fair hearing before a decision to dismiss an employee is made. To dismiss you as an employee is made. So if your employer claims that there's something that you have done that could lead to your dismissal, you as the employee, you have a right to be heard as to why you should not be dismissed. If that is not made, then that will qualify as a fair dismissal. And all this is embedded under Section 65 of the Employment Act. That is the act that protects, that provides all the labor related laws, that it embeds all the labor related laws, and it talks about everything, the rights of a worker, everything that I'm talking about, right? So, as a teacher and as a worker, you have a right to practice your profession and carry on any lawful occupation, trade, or business, and to withdraw labor according to the law. I mean, you are a teacher, you're above 18 years of age, you have a profession. So if you choose to withdraw your labor, no one should say no, because you can easily make a decision for yourself as long as you're of sound mind, right? And you also have a right to practice your profession, just like I'm practicing my legal profession. You too, as a teacher, you have a right to practice your profession. I mean, those are rights that you have as an individual, as a citizen of Uganda, right? And then there's also a right to standard working hours, right? Now, these standard working hours, do you know that you are supposed to be working at least 40, at least you're supposed to be working for a specific time of hours without being overworked? You know, sometimes you could get a lot of workload and then you're being told, no, you must teach this, you know, we have limited time. I know sometimes that pressure is there, especially, you know, maybe examination period and all that. But, you know, all that in the Employment Act is that before all that is done, you must consent to working past the hours you're supposed to work. So why? Because they're trying to protect your sanctity. Because as a teacher, you're not a machine. You get tired. So that's why the law has provided standard working hours for workers. And we as teachers, we need to know that. You see, if I really go too deep into these things, I have limited time. I have literally 30 minutes or 40 to speak, but everything I'm referring to is under the Employment Act. And these standard hours can be found under Section 52 of the Employment Act. And you get to know the hours. I mean, 48 hours. You're supposed to work for at least not less than 48 hours. All that is stipulated under that section, Section 52. And you, as a teacher, you also have a right not to be discriminated against. And this is literally in the Constitution. Every citizen of Uganda is entitled to not being discriminated against, whether female or male, no matter the gender, ethnicity, and we are all equal before the law. So even when we are at our workplaces, at our schools, it is really prudent to always know that discrimination is criminal in nature. I mean, these are just natural rules. If someone really thinks that they are higher or greater than the other person, then they might need to go back for some home training. It's just basic natural justice, just basic natural knowledge that we're supposed to treat our brothers equally and treat them with utmost love, just like the Lord commanded us. So if any scenario like that happens, you can know that you are always protected under the law as a worker, because you have a right not to be discriminated against. Okay. And now I believe this other thing is why we're here. As a worker, also as a teacher, you have a right to join any labor union of your choice, you know? Just like every Ugandan, you have a right to be in any party, any religion. So all this is embedded under Article 40 of the Constitution, where as a teacher, you have a right to say, you know what, I'm a teacher. There's a labor union called Uganda Professional Science Teachers. It would be great if I involved myself in this union, because it gives me a sense of entitlement as a teacher, not entitlement, a sense of pride as a teacher, and probably even through this union, my voice as a teacher can be heard in the government or out there. So you have a right to join a labor union of your choice, and I am happy to know that you're all here under the umbrella of Uganda Professional Science Teachers, and I'm honestly proud to be one of the legal representatives of the union, right? Okay, so we have already talked about the right of appointments, an appointment letter. I told you, as a worker, as a teacher, you are supposed to know that you will qualify to be a worker or an employee if you have that appointment letter, or if you have that contract, that employment contract. Please let us be conscious about that, right? Don't get someone who will tell you come and teach, and then you have no rules or terms that are going to govern your work that you're doing. Otherwise, you'll be heading for doom. Because sometimes when you do that, they take advantage of you. And when you don't know that you need that contract, you'll be used. Just like all the other professions. We all need terms under which we are going to work. And by the way, this appointment letter entails very many things. This employment contract, it talks about your sick leave, all the terms that talked about your sick leave, your annual leave, the wages that you're going to be paid, the period in which you're working. It embeds all the terms that you need to know about. So this contract actually protects you as a teacher. It protects you as a worker, as an employer, and also as an employee, because it only does not cover the duties of an employee, but it also covers the duties of an employer. And you know, the duties of an employer is for teachers to give workload to the teacher, employer, to pay the teacher on time, sick leave, annual leave, make sure that the environment that the teacher is working in is friendly and healthy, safe and healthy, and maternal leave, maternity leave, paternal leave, English, paternal leave, and all that. So it protects the rights of a teacher, the rights of a worker, the rights of an employer, the rights of an employee, right? Now, as a teacher, as a worker, you are entitled to an insurance cover for liabilities related to occupational accidents and injuries, right? Just like even in the contract, they would say that because the employer has a duty to make sure that nothing happens to you as long as you are on your post of duty. So it would be prudent for them to generate an insurance cover for any eventualities that might happen to you, any occupational hazards, accidents, or injuries. But this is it should you as a teacher, you also need to be careful. You don't have to use this as a way of saying, okay, I have insurance, so any slightest thing, I'll just go and use my insurance. Or I'll be careless because after all, I have insurance. You too, you have a duty to be careful and not negligent. I'm sure we've had news of several facilities, several schools that are having health hazards. Let's say they have poor sanitary facilities, inadequate water and washing facilities. And I'm sure sometimes we hear them crying to the government to come and indulge in that situation. So as a worker, where you are working, you must know that your employer is supposed to make sure that they provide sanitary facilities, adequate water, and washing facilities. Sometimes the employer could deprive the teachers or the employees from, you know, the major necessities that are needed for a healthy living, all in the name of we don't have money, or we're trying to minimize, or government has not given us money, or all that. But you should know that it is your right as a teacher, it is your right as a worker to have to be provided for with sanitary facilities and adequate water and washing facilities. If those things are not there, then you can cry out to your employer. If your employer is government, you can also cry out to the government to come and indulge in that, because you know the major goals of the major goals of an employer is to make sure that the employee is working in a healthy and safe environment, right? So about what I talked about.
Like any other government-funded schools that face a host of challenges, Namukomago Primary School in Mityana District is not excluded. Here, teachers and pupils, both boys and girls, share the same old latrine. When the pupils queue up to use the toilet, the teachers have to monitor them, which in some instances leaves little time for class.
We have a problem of one latrine. We use both teachers and children, boys and girls, male teachers and female teachers.
The school's headmaster, Wilson Chagulanyi, has asked the government to intervene because the limited funds they have cannot solve the situation.
Teachers do not get their break in time, in that they have to look after these kids when they are going for their short course and long course, since they are using the same toilet.
He said the latrine is full and is a health risk.
Are you think that type of situation? That should not be allowed. And a teacher should not be subjected to such as a situation. So if you have such a problem, you have a right to talk to your employer or talk to the government if you're in a government entity, a government school, to change that whole situation. Because if you are to teach well, you must also be healthy. So if you're in that situation, please, you know what to do, right? Okay. There's something called termination of contracts. Now, I'll give you the scenarios under which a termination of a contract is happens. So, but before I give you the scenarios, one of the rights of an employer, of a teacher, of a worker, of an employee, of a teacher, of a worker is that before your employment is terminated, you must receive notice upon the termination. So in other words, before your employer says I've terminated you, they should give you notice, because you have a right to be notified that, you know what, after the evidence that we have looked through in your case, when we summoned you, and after hearing your case, after hearing from your side, we have decided to terminate your services. You have that right. You have that right, right? As apart from other circumstances, and probably these circumstances could, maybe if you are on probation, sometimes your contract would just be terminated because you're still on probation. Yeah. So you are entitled to a notice. Now, I need to give you scenarios in which an employment contract can be terminated. Termination is deemed to take place in these instances. And one is that the contract is ended by the employer with notice, just like I talked about in the beginning. You need to be notified. So if your employer notifies you that, you know what, I think you need to stop working, you've worked enough, the contract is nullified, then your contract has been terminated. So also another scenario where you'd actually, where a termination is deemed to have taken place is where your contract of service, in the contract of service, they usually tell you you're going to teach for this amount of years. So if the fixed term or the period or the task that you were given to do ends and the time of expiry of the specified term has reached, and the same has not been renewed, by the way, has not been renewed within a period of 1 week from the date of expiry, then you have to know that your contract has been terminated. And another scenario is where you as the employee, you choose to end this contract with or without notice as a consequence of maybe unreasonable conduct on the part of the employer towards the employee. Let's say your employer is really acting in a way that is unbecoming and it's really affecting you as a teacher, and you feel like, you know what, I think I need to get off this job. So because of this, you're feeling uncomfortable because of this unreasonable conduct by your employer, you choose to leave your place of work. So when you leave this place of work, it is deemed that you have terminated your contract of service, right? And then so when you choose to leave, sometimes when you give notice to your employer that, you know what, I want to leave. And then your employer will tell you, oh, but your contract is still running. Why are you leaving? And say, oh, no, I feel like I want to leave. Maybe you have got another place of work. Then that is enough to terminate your contract. You don't have to come back again and say, oh, my contract was still running, so because of that, I am still an employee. No, that is not how the law looks at it. Once you give notice of termination to your employer before the expiry of your notice, you have terminated your service in that place. So you also...
Excuse me, Counsel.
Yes, sir.
Counsel, I would beg that I don't know how much work you are left with to present, but you may have some more 10 minutes, and we give some 20 minutes to members, because most of these people you see on the platform have real life situations which I think they need to be attended to. You'll see the concerns they are raising practically. They are going through hot lives there where they are. Yeah. And I wanted you to give them time to present them to you. I'm
almost finishing. And my...
Okay.
But I believe what I'm telling you should solve some of the real life scenarios, because I've also got complaints from teachers literally having issues that I'm talking about.
Yes.
So like I earlier said, you must work in a safe and healthy working environment. And in case of any catastrophe, you are entitled to compensation for the injury sustained at your course of employment. You have to take caution, and you must not be negligent. And I'm requesting all of us to go to the new vision, which was published on the 5th of November. There is a case. It's called Odetta versus St. Peter's Nalia SS. Odetta was a teacher at St. Peter's Nalia SS. So this teacher was, I think he was like the deputy head teacher, and it was in the night. So his claim, he took the St. Peter's Nalia SS to court, seeking for compensation for he fell in a manhole in the night when he was chasing a student, I think during the prep time from the dormitory. So when he got a student in the dormitory, and he decided to chase the student running, using a lot of force. Go to class. So in the process of that, he fell in a manhole. So when he fell in the manhole, he had some minor injuries, and he took Nalia SS to court for compensation. And guess what? He was coming under the principle, he was trying to exercise his right of working in a workspace that is safe and healthy. But court told him that, you know what? Much as you are entitled to a safe and healthy working space, and much as you are entitled to a compensation for the injuries you sustained in your course of business, you as a teacher should not be negligent, and you should take precautionary measures when you are at your place of duty. Attached has been that newspaper showing that case, because and that's why I said, when we are having these employment contracts, we need to look at the terms in these contracts. And what is in your contract is what you're supposed to follow. So court told him, was running after your students one of the terms of your contract? He said no. So court said, you know what? Some teachers can really try to be so zealous and they want to run so fast and they're being rough. And then they make things happen. They cause certain things to happen. Had it been that you had not used a lot of force on the ground, maybe you wouldn't have fallen into this manhole. So they said, much as the school had a right to make sure that the place is safe for you, you also ought to have been careful and not negligent to do certain acts. So it's a recent decided case, and this case could affect any complaints that are brought in by teachers of any instances of injuries or catastrophes happening at their places of work, right? Okay. So as a teacher, as a teacher, as a worker, where can you get your remedies? As a teacher, there are very many remedies that are there that are set for you. That's why the labor office is there. The industrial court is there. As a teacher, when you have a complaint, you have a right to go to the nearest labor officer in your district or the area that you're in to make a complaint against your employer. If your employer is treating you in a way that is not good, you please go to this labor officer. These labor officers are usually at the district offices, the local government district offices. You have to go to these labor offices and make your complaints. These labor officers, they have rights to hear you. They can carry on mediations. They can even call the other party to listen to them. They can even call witnesses to hear you. And then they can also settle grievances which are lodged by you as an employee or even as an employer, and they can also investigate and also settle, reconcile, mediate. Like I already told, you can hold hearings, make referrals. Now, after this matter has been handled at the labor office and maybe it's not concluded, then the labor officer can always refer this matter to the industrial court. Mind you, the industrial court is at the level of the High Court of Uganda. So that means that you won't just go straight to the industrial court. You have to start with the labor officer, right? So as a teacher, you must be a friend to a lawyer. You must also be a friend to a labor union, UPSTU. Because if you're a friend to a labor union, if you're a member of a labor union, we're always there to give you the legal advice. We can always say, okay, well, you go and make a complaint to the labor officer, and maybe we can even draft like we have been doing. We always make complaints for teachers. We write to the district, the labor officers, the headmasters, complaining about the misconduct of the headmasters and all that. And sometimes those conduct of the headmasters are regulated when they see that, okay, the labor union has come in or the lawyer has come in, because we go to the headmasters, we go to the local district, we inform the labor officer, and when things are to escalate, you can go to the industrial court. But that doesn't mean that you should bring your personal issues to the union, because the union protects your matters related to your profession, not personal issues. See many things like, okay, they've stolen my chicken, they have stolen this, they're not allowed. Also, before you also come up with your legal issues, you must also make sure that your hands are clean. I'm going to be using scenarios. I will not speak names, but these are some of the complaints that we usually have. There's a teacher that came to office and wanted to lay a complaint against the Ministry of Education. He wanted us to represent him before the ministry and complain about he had been summoned for disciplinary hearing for forging documents for him to get his appointment. So he wanted us to protect him. But then when I looked at the reports, when I looked at the documents, and when I looked at the level of investigation that had been made, I got to realize that this same teacher had made a confession in the first hearing before the same ministry that he gave his documents to a man that he later on got to realize was a con man. Right? He got to realize that this man was a con man. And then after that, he just left it because he eventually got the job. But then you see, it later caught up with him. The same ministry got to realize that, wait a minute, this man's documents, this man's appointment was actually fake. It was forged. So us as the union, how would you expect us to represent you? Because first of all, forgery is a criminal offense. So before you bring your matters to the union or to the lawyer, you must also make sure that your hands are clean. Right? So with the complaints that you bring, just try to make sure that they're really reasonable and within the law. We cannot protect matters that are criminal and matters where you are negligent. You have to know ignorance is not an excuse. Unfortunately, ignorance is not an excuse. So, and that's why the labor unions are there. They have different roles. They negotiate, collective bargaining for you as a member. They also participate in disciplinary hearings. But you know, when you're disciplinary hearing, like I said, your hands must be clean, right? You cannot make a confession that you did something and then you want the union to represent you, because eventually, if the union represents you when you have made criminal offenses, it taints us really badly. Yeah. So the labor unions, they also they help engage employers on behalf of their aggrieved workers. Like I told you, most times we get complaints from teachers, and then we write letters on their behalf, and we talk to the local governments. We talk to the labor officers on their behalf, and the matters are settled. And some of them are reinstated back at their places of work, and probably there's always the way out, as long as the labor union is there, right? So the labor unions, they'll always help with matters during mediation processes, and also they can also help you gather some evidence. We as lawyers, we can always help you, guide you on the legal machineries to bring for your fair hearing. We can tell you, okay, you need this witness, you need this document, okay, you're alleging this, but you have documents to show your workload. Do you have documents to show you that you are signing when you are coming to teach? We can always guide you. And these are things that you might not understand when you've not sought for any legal advice. Yeah, and that's why the labor unions are here, and that's why we as lawyers are here to guide you. So also, now, apart from the labor unions, there's also the role of the industrial courts. Like I told you, the industrial court is at the level of the High Court. When matters have not been solved at the labor office, you will always have to refer those matters to the industrial court. You have seen a picture of the industrial court of Uganda. That is the picture. Yeah, yeah, it's still under construction, but that is it. But the industrial court is a tripartite court, and it's established under Section 6 of the Labor Disputes Arbitration and Settlement Act, which was amended. This is a court of reference and an appellate court of labor matters, and it's at a level of the High Court of Uganda, like I said, but it's without original jurisdiction. It determines labor matters and appeals from the industrial court. And once matters are not settled at the level of the industrial court, they can always be referred to the Court of Appeal, right? So while a labor matter, while exercising these labor matters, there are certain challenges to the administration of labor justice in Uganda. Like I said, we as lawyers, the major challenges we get to realize is that there's a lot of ignorance of workers, by the workers themselves. As a worker, some of the workers don't even know that I have a right to have an employment contract. I have a right to seek leave. I have a right to annual leave. I have a right to be provided a safe and healthy environment. So some teachers will just operate in circumstances that are unfriendly. And then when hazards happen to them, they'll just let things go. But that is not how it is. You need to sensitize yourselves about your rights. Then there's also a lot of case backlog due to, few judicial officers. Like I told you, it's only the industrial court, but apart from the labor officers that solve the labor offices. And the industrial court is only one court right now in Uganda. So there's a lot of case backlog. Then sometimes you with the teachers, you the employees, you claim that the lawyers are expensive. You say, oh, litigation is so expensive. These lawyers are so expensive. But let me tell you, you might say that we're expensive, but what the services we give to you can save you hundreds and millions of shillings, hundreds and millions of dollars, But like the way practice is, most people usually come to a lawyer when things have gone wrong. But you also need that lawyer, even before things get wrong, to protect you from any eventualities that could happen, So that's the other challenge in the administration of labor justice. There's also manipulation of employment contracts by some employers. Sometimes the employers know that you, the teachers, you, the employees, you don't read your contracts when you're going to sign them. So they'll always put terms that are really unfavorable for you as a teacher, and sheepishly you will just sign that contract. And boom, it will get back to you. You will start realizing that, what is this? What did I sign? And then you start running to your lawyers. That is why you need a lawyer. Before you sign that contract, always seek advice from your lawyer, So what are I have limited time, I'm sorry, but what is my conclusion and my call for you to do in action? You as a teacher, you as a worker, you need to know your rights. As a teacher, you need to know your rights as a worker, as an employee. You need to also seek for union support on labor-related matters. Like I told you, we don't want to hear your private matters. When you're in a labor union, we need to hear your matters which are related to your workspace, your labor matters. Not they have stolen my chicken, they have done this. Those are your private matters. Those ones, go and look for Counsel Masika Sandra to represent you in person, or you can also represent yourself in person before the court. But when it's related in labor matters, you can always come to the union to seek for help. You can also, like I told you, can also utilize legal channels like the labor officers, the industrial court, in advocating for fair treatment and justice. Yeah. Also stay informed. Knowledge is key. Knowledge in this life is key. Know your rights. Regularly review and study what all the spheres or regularly review and stay updated in all labor related matters. That's where you can always protect yourself as a teacher. And then you can also visit the UPSTU website and get to have some legal resources from other information. Like the cases I've been talking about, the acts I've been talking about, you all find them in that website. And by the way, there's also a YouTube channel for UPSTU. All the cases I've talked about, you can find them there, right? So basically, I thank you all for listening to me. And I know that time is limited, but I believe that we shall have more time to tackle the legal spheres related to labor-related matters, laws. We can even have physical visits, and I can teach you more about the labor-related issues. Yeah, so I'll wait for your questions, and I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Counsel Masika.
A minute, please.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm sorry. You can also contact us on our email. That is legal@upstu.org. And in case of any issues, just in case you're caught up with time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Counsel Masika, so much for the presentation. And I hope our members are going to benefit much from it. I have captured that last statement you made, that always be informed. Because some of us, you find that we are ignorant about our labor rights, and we end up falling victim because of lack of information. And maybe one other thing I have captured from that video that you are the scenario you told us about to St. Peter's, I find it pertinent for us to know that much as we are fighting for our rights as workers, there is a need to know the rights of the children that we are serving.
Yes.
We have been entrusted with these children, so we need to know their rights and protect them as well. Because now I imagine it is a teacher who fell in that manhole. What if it was the child he was chasing? It would have been worse than that.
Yes.
So as teachers, we need to protect the rights of our children that we have been entrusted with. Then briefly, Councillor Masika,
yes, sir.
maybe you can capture this. You can capture this. These are members' messages.
Okay.
And one was asking that, is it possible for a teacher to have annual leave since we have long holidays? Then another one was, which steps must the HM take before instructing the cow to hold one's salary? At times you find that the head teacher instructs the cow not to pay a particular teacher. Now, what are the procedures that the HM is supposed to take before instructing the cow to withhold someone's salary? Then one other thing, I need to know if one can also use high court instead of industrial court. Those are people's messages. And then thanks for this session. How many days qualifies for one to be regarded to have absconded from duty? Some people have raised here. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I believe you have heard them. That last one was how much time does one need to have? In how many days does one abscond? That was the last one. Yeah, basically those are the ones. Maybe before you come in, I don't know whether Mr. Rogers is around. I don't know whether these 4 minutes remaining can be enough for us, or you are going to do something for us so that we have some, about 10. Mr. Rogers? Mr. Rogers?
Hello?
Hello,
Hello?
Rogers. Yes,
Mr.
Madam Betty.
Tungume,
Yes,
please,
Madam
you
Betty.
feel free and let the questions asked be answered. Don't worry about time.
Okay, okay. Okay,
Thank you.
Madam Sandra, come in and attend to those concerns.
Okay. So the first question was, is it possible to have annual leave since your holidays are really very long? But remember what I told you. As an employee, as a worker, you have a right to have annual leave. In fact, you have a right to have a week leave. You cannot teach, you cannot work from Monday to Sunday. No, you must have a day off. So you are entitled to your annual leave as long as you are an employee, as long as you are a teacher in that school, as long as you're under a contract of service. And all this is embedded in the Employment Act. Actually, this is embedded under sections, sections 53. I think I'm going to read them for you. That's why I got this up. These are the laws that govern the labor-related matters. And the section that provides for leave is here, section 53. I'm going to read it verbatim. When I say verbatim, I'm saying it legally. It means verbally, but you know, in legal we speak a bit of Italian language, so we call it verbatim. So Section 53 provides for annual leave and public holidays. 1, subject to provision of this section, an employee shall, once in every calendar year, be entitled to a holiday with full pay at the rate of 7 days in respect of each period of a continuous 4-month service, to be taken at such time during such calendar year as may be agreed between the parties, and the employee shall be entitled to a day's holiday with full pay on every public holiday during his or her employment, or where he or she works for his or her employer on a public holiday, to a day's holiday with full pay at the expense of the employer on the same other day that would otherwise be a day of work. The section is quite long, but at least you can see that the law provides that you are entitled to annual leave. You are also entitled to a holiday when it's a public holiday as a worker. So I hope I answered that.
Maybe Madam Masika, before you move to another response,
Okay.
I can interject in before you move to another thing related to those leaves. You find that some teachers have been intimidated and they have been asked to stay at school for 5 days. And I believe it is related to what you're explaining now, that someone is entitled to a weekly rest.
Yes. I mean, as a teacher, you're not a machine. You need to be healthy for you to carry on your job. So when you get intimidated, you just have to speak up and tell your head teacher that, you know what, I have a right to leave. And sometimes, you know, let me tell you, we've got where teachers always intimidate teachers, head teachers. And then the teachers come to us and then we write letters to them as your lawyers. When they receive these letters, those head teachers know the rights that you people have. When they receive those letters, they always reduce on their actions because they know that, okay, I think this person knows that he's supposed to have leave. When they see these letters, they reduce a bit. But you know, when this teacher becomes, his actions become constant, like I told you, you always have a remedy. You can always write a complaint to the labor officer. This labor officer has a right to summon this head teacher. This labor officer has a right to hear you as a person, as an employee, and hear your side, and also instruct that head teacher to do what he's supposed to do. So please always have that at the back of your mind. Never allow to be intimidated. You are enough for yourself as long as you know what you are doing. And as long as you have the knowledge. Remember, ignorance is not an excuse. So these head teachers usually take advantage of the teacher's ignorance. Please don't fall for that. Okay, can I continue?
Yeah, you can
see
continue.
A few people raising their hands. Probably we give them opportunities to ask those questions. If it's allowed, Mr. Moderator.
Madam Sandra, you still have some 2 questions as I read. I don't know whether you captured them.
Yeah, the procedures to take before withholding salary. You said the scenario where the head teacher is instructing that certain salary should not pay to a certain teacher.
Yeah, withholding the worker's salary.
The head teacher has no right to do that. Is this worker from a government school, government-owned school, or private school?
Government school.
Exactly. It is the same government that pays the head teacher, that pays this teacher. So who is the head teacher to instruct that the monies for a teacher should be withheld? It is the Ministry of Education or the public service that is supposed to withhold, that is supposed to instruct the let's say the government, you know, is it the clerk who gives the resources that the local government
the chief administrative officer.
Exactly, the cow. So I was saying the cow. It is the cow who is supposed to withhold that salary of that teacher. And if that cow is, by the way, found to be withholding that salary of the teacher illegally, that cow can still be summoned by the ministry, by the public service, because the cow is still an employee of the government. So whatever the headmaster is doing is really is out of place. It is misconduct, and the headmaster needs to be put in place. I have received several complaints of the same, and we have written letters to the headmasters addressing them of their actions, and we have also informed the public service and the Ministry of Education, the CAO. We have copied the CAO, the Chief Administrative Officer, about the same. And sometimes, actually not even sometimes, most times the government responds. They instruct that head teacher, the CAO, to start paying these teachers.
Yeah, I think, Madam Sandra, now you come to this concern of a member. How many days does one need to be absent from work in order to be regarded to have absconded?
Okay. Now, first of all, for you to abscond from duty, you must have not given notice to, let's say, your supervisor or your headmaster that you're not going to work. So that is what qualifies to be an abscondment. So for you to say, okay, I've absconded, you must not have given any notice to your employer, probably your supervisor, immediate supervisor. Now, it's presumed that when you are absent from work for at least more than 7 days and you've not given any notice, it's presumed that you have absconded. The employer has a duty to contact you and see and ask you, where are you? What is wrong? Why aren't you coming? So once you show no concern of letting these people know where you are or your whereabouts, it's presumed that you have absconded from work. And once that period, more than 7 days, elapses and you have not been coming to do your work, obviously they'll write in a complaint of abscondment from your duty. And as a teacher, it violates the terms of your contract, because absconding your duty is not one of the duties that you're supposed to do as a teacher.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Madam Sandra. We have one person waiting. I can see his hand up.
I had also another question regarding to the High Court or the Industrial Court. Can you please rephrase that?
Yeah. He was asking that is there an option that one to High Court? Hello?
Hello?
The concern was that instead of Industrial Court, can one go to High Court?
Okay. Now, like I was telling you, like I was telling you earlier, the Industrial Court is at the level of the High Court. The Industrial Court is established under section of the Labor Disputes Arbitration and Settlement. And the Industrial Court majorly handles labor-related matters. So you cannot go to another High Court when you have a labor-related matter. They will always refer you back to the Industrial Court, because the only court that handles labor-related matters is the Industrial Court, which was established majorly for the interests of workers, for the interests of the employees, of employers. So it's the only court in Uganda that handles labor-related matters. But like I told you, before you go to the Industrial Court, you have to start with the Labor Office.
So in other words, you are saying that High Court has different departments, and so Industrial Court is one of the departments which handles labor-related issues.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Madam Sandra, can I let in this hand which is up?
Much obliged.
Oh, Mr. Luima Edward, you can come in and give your concern.
Yes, thank you, moderator, for granting me that opportunity. Greetings to everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, the organizers of this wonderful program. And also thank I thank the participant for joining in. Council Masika, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation.
Much obliged.
We really appreciate because you have taken us through many things. For sure, as we know that in law, ignorance has no defense, we always endeavor to get ourselves acquainted with the several laws and policies governing the teaching profession. And you have
Hello.
I have some two questions. Hello, I have some two questions. The first
Okay.
one is about
Mr. Lima, be fast and brief.
yes. The first one, we are union leaders. I can see many union leaders here, and I understand that union leaders are labor officers because we advocate and we represent the teachers. Yes, if that is not right, you can correct me.
Yeah,
But
that's
what I'm driving to is, in many cases, their leaders try or to access their members as leaders. For example, me, I'm the regional chairperson, and they are district chairpersons. We try to access our members sometimes, but the leaders of the union are denied access in some cases. Like you want to deliver some information to particular members to a school, because we can't find these members at their homes. We find them at schools, but you find that the administrators deny access. Now, what legal advice do you give to the union officials who are denied access to their members? Secondly, the second issue is about study leaves. I want to know about the conditions which are supposed to be in place for teachers to be granted study leaves. Do you just do you get a study leave anytime you want? All their conditions which are supposed to be in place. Thank you very much. Those are my concerns.
Okay, Madam Sandra, I think you can attend to those.
okay. I think the first concern was about denial of access of union members to access their members, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Union leaders.
Union leaders who are denied to have access to their members. So, but I think some of these questions that I'm stating are repeating some of the things I had talked about. I remember telling us all that as an employee, as an employer, you have a right to associate in a labor union of your choice, right? So when a union leader is not given access to his or her members, that is not good. That is not allowed legally, because these members that are denied access, that are denied to be accessible, have a right to involve themselves to join labor unions. So whichever headmasters or whichever head teachers are doing that illegally. They need to be educated and they need to be told that these teachers have a right to meet their union leaders because they are participants in a labor union. So basically, that is what I had said earlier on. And all this, like I said, is found under Article 40, Clause 3 of the Uganda Constitution, which provides that as a worker, as an employee, you have a right to join a labor union of your choice, you know? The good thing is that I came prepared. I have the Constitution here with me. So, some of these things we are learning, right? And that is the privilege that you have when you are subscribed to a labor union. So Article 40 provides for the economic rights of workers. Clause 1, Parliament shall enact laws, subclause 1, to provide for the right of persons to work under satisfactory, safe, and healthy conditions. 2, to ensure equal payment of equal work without discrimination. That case of the person who's not being paid, who's being instructed by the headmaster not to be paid. See, this is where your interests are protected. Also, the economic rights to ensure the parliament has enacted laws to ensure that every worker is accorded rest and reasonable working hours and periods of holidays with pay, as well as remuneration of public holidays. 2, close to every person in Uganda has a right to participate, to practice his or her profession and carry on lawful occupation, trade and business. So clause 3, now ours is on clause 3. Every worker has a right. This is the constitution. And by the way, the constitution of Uganda is the supreme law of Uganda. That means that there is no law that supersedes the constitution of Uganda. Could it be the Employment Act, the Labor Act? All those laws, they all have their terms, and all the laws that are in those acts should correlate with what is provided for in the constitution. So clause 3, every worker has a right to form or join a trade union of his or her choice for the promotion and protection of his or her economic and social interests. And also has a right to collective bargaining and representation. You also have a right to withdraw. Has a right to withdraw his or her labor according to the law. So, should it happen that a union leader is trying to seek for access to his members at a certain school and they're denied, please always know that this is illegally done by the head teachers. Are we fine with that?
Yeah, I hope people have understood that right.
Yeah, the leaders have a right to access their members as long as they're going at the appropriate times. You also have to seek for access of these members when you're going at the appropriate times. You cannot always go at the times when they're teaching students. At the end of it all, these teachers need to perform their duties at the workplace. So you always have to seek for permission from the head teachers and inform them ahead of time that on this day, at this time, we shall need to access our members. So what are the conditions to be put in place to get study leave? We are all entitled. As a worker, you have a right to study. You have a right for your employer to give you some study leave, to improve on your knowledge. Knowledge is power, like I've earlier told you. Knowledge is power. And as you grow in your career, your knowledge also needs to increase. You cannot just stay at one stage all the time having the same knowledge. So what are the conditions to be put in place for you to get a study leave? First of all, you will not just wake up today and say, I'm going to get study leave. No, you must notify your employer. And then you see what I'm talking about, and it all goes back to what I earlier on stated. Before you sign that contract of service, that employment contract, always make sure that you read these terms in this employment contract. Let me tell you, everything that I'm talking about right now, you will get surprised that some of the rights I've told you, they might not be in your contract, some of your contracts. But had you known about these rights, you would have told your employer, but you know what? You have read this contract, but you see, I'm not seeing provision of a sick leave. I'm not seeing the times when I'm supposed to teach. I'm not seeing maternity leave. Don't you think we should embed them in this contract that I'm about to sign? And these things. It's just that they know that these teachers, because you're desperate to work, you will not read through this contract. So, as the teacher, as the worker, you always need to know that now these provisions of study leave are in your agreements. Before you go for study leave, you must notify your employer. Your employer needs to give you permission. Your employer needs to say, okay, you're going to be away for 1 or 2 or 5 months or something. Okay, it is okay because the same is embedded in your employment contract. So please go. And when you're studying, you're entitled to payment, even as you're studying. For a certain period, you're entitled. All these are terms that need to be embedded in your contract. And mind you, whatever is in your contract is what dictates how you will act, in which period you will teach. So if you have the legal knowledge on your rights, on what you're supposed to do, on what should be the content of an employment contract, you always have a better bargaining power with your employer. So yes, anyone can have a study leave, but usually the terms of the study leave, in most cases, will be embedded in the contract of service. And these terms, these contracts usually have the terms under which you go. They always tell you maybe you must have a notice or 1 month notice, or you must give in a written notice to your employer, terms of payment, all that. So it's possible. The conditions have to be made or fulfilled in accordance with your contract, employment contract, and also in accordance with the labor laws. The labor laws are you cannot just go for study leave without giving notice to your employer. And also maybe you also have to get some payment when you're studying, and all those are conditions that have to be fulfilled.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sandra.
Yes,
one last concern I think which I need to put to you is that there is a major concern that people normally face here in field. You find that Councillor Masika, you want a transfer, you want to go to another school you have identified, but this teacher denies you chance to go, and at his or her own timing chooses to transfer you forcefully. So that is a scenario that whenever you want to transfer, they don't want you to go. But when a teacher presumes that you are not fit to stay on that station, you are not even notified or asked to look for a station of your choice, but you only see a transfer letter, forced transfer. So I don't know how you can advise people on that.
Yeah, and you see, that's why I gave you the different avenues of solving such issues. We have also got several complaints in regard to that from teachers who complain about transfers from head teachers. I don't know what's wrong with head teachers. They're very stubborn, and they also usually try to treat teachers really unfairly sometimes. I'm not saying all of them, but like you said, it's not the head teachers that transfer these teachers. These transfers are supposed to come from the ministry. So if they do that without permission from the ministry, they are illegally doing that.
No, what they do, Council, what they do for them, they just submit names to the ministry, and because they are conniving with some officials from the ministry, someone is transferred. But remember, there is a time when I wanted to transfer, and you denied me chance to go to a school of my choice.
And you see, that is the challenge.
That is the scenario.
That is the scenario. It is really so absurd that some of those scenarios happen. Ideally, the teachers have no right to dictate where a certain teacher should be transferred. It is the ministry that is supposed to do that. But you see, because we are in a state, I'm going to say it, and I am not afraid. I stand by the law because I'm a lawyer. But you see, we are in a state where justice and fairness sometimes is not given, right? So basically, even when the public service has their own standing orders that provide for all that, the transfers of teachers, Even when the Public Service Act provides for the procedure, there will always be some head teachers, because they know someone in the ministry, they'll always try to dictate. So it's because the state in itself has leaders who are corrupt. There are leaders in government positions who are corrupt. And then it's about, if you have money, if you have power, they'll easily influence where a certain teacher will be taken, transferred, and all that. So as a teacher, you need to learn to protect yourself. We've written a couple of letters to the ministry regarding some transfers of teachers. A recent one is one for a teacher that I got a complaint, and this teacher this teacher did what? This teacher she's lame. She has a problem with her hip. So this teacher was transferred to a very distant village, and her place of residence was really far away from her school. How do you expect a teacher to walk literally like 7 miles from her workplace from her place of residence to her school, and she has a disability? And guess what? It was the head teacher who had tried to influence the transfer. So what I did, and what we did as the legal department, we had to write to the ministry that, you know what? Whereas the headmaster of this school knew that our union member had a disability, he somehow tried to influence her transfer. Even when the ministry first transferred her to a nearby school, but then the headmaster tried to use, his influence to take her to a school further. We said, whereas you knew that she had a disability, it is so absurd that the head teacher has used illegal means to make sure that our member is transferred to a school that is really far from her place of work. We had to bring in our evidence. We brought in the doctor's medical report. We brought in the scan showing her disability, and we wrote to the Ministry of Education. We copied the public service, and we copied the public service. We also copied the CAO's office, the labor officer, and all those offices at the local government. And we got a response from the Ministry of Education, where they said, okay, well, looking at the evidence you have given to us, I think we're going to try to consider the disability of the teacher, and in the next set of transferring teachers, we shall do something. So as teachers, you always need to know that when something like that happens, you need to learn to exercise the unions that you subscribe to, or the lawyers that you have, and it all comes from the fact that you know your rights. Do not allow these headmasters, these head teachers, to take advantage of you, right?
Okay. Do you have any additional information, Pastor Sandra?
Okay, I honestly, I feel like this time is very limited for us, but then before I can say anything, I want to thank all teachers, especially everyone listening to me today. I want to thank you for the good work that you're doing for the nation, and for all the students out there. You do a tremendous work, and we recognize the work that you do. You sacrifice a lot for the future of very many people out there, and I would really applaud you. And I really want to use this opportunity to tell you that the work that you are doing is really great, and it's only God that can really bless you beyond all measures. I also want to take this opportunity I'm recognizing my mother, who is here. I just want to tell her that I love her, and thank you for the support. But most of all, teachers, let us learn to know our rights. Knowledge is power. Do not allow to be intimidated by those head teachers. Do not allow to be intimidated by anyone, because the work you are doing is tremendous. Know your rights, learn what is supposed to be given to you, learn your rights. That way you protect yourselves. It is really unfortunate that much as the teachers create a lot of bright futures for people out there, sometimes the teachers are not considered. So that is why we have unions. You need to learn many things. You need to learn a lot of labor laws to protect yourself, and also be active in the union. Thank you so much. I'm always available here at office on Monday and Thursday, and also on the email, like you saw, legal@upstu.org. I'm always available in case of any other questions that I've not answered, or in case of any clarifications that I need to make. I can still communicate through that email. And please come share your complaints. Come, let us share all the legal knowledge that we need to know, so that we can all fight for ourselves. As teachers, as members of this union, we are supposed to represent our interests. Thank you so much, and may God bless you all.
Thank you, Sandra, for having us this evening, and we are happy to have had you to share with us these pertinent issues and the education that you have extended to us as members. Knowledge is power, and what you have given us, we can't take it for granted. We thank you. May God continue blessing you. And allow me to appreciate the presence of these members, or NEC members, Ojara Ojiri Joffre, Eliod Nasasira, Obua Kizito, Kelo Peter, Wambi Difas, Rima Edward, Auma Betty, Begumisa Julius. Thank you so much for attending. And I wish to thank the NEC for having facilitated this. And above all, I have to extend my sincere gratitude to the Education Committee for having come up with this initiative. And I would call upon the Chairperson Education Committee, who shall give us the closing remarks and maybe a closing prayer as we conclude this. Thank you, members, for having had this wonderful interface and a seminar series, kind of. It is not as easy as people think. It is not that every union has this. It is only particular to UPSTU. Therefore, kudos to UPSTU members and then the leadership. Madam Betty Auma, you can come in and give conclusive remarks and pray for us as we wind. Thank you.
Say something. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I've seen some questions. I'm sorry, I was going through the questions, but I've seen some questions. Someone was asking, what are the paternity days? I remember I earlier talked about the days of leave for maternity and paternity. Maternity is 60 days, and paternity days are 4 days.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Madam Betty.
Yeah, thank you very much, all the speakers. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you for the interest shown. Let us pray. God the Father, we thank you for all that we have received today. We thank you for the presenters. Bless them, Lord. Bless all of us as we go through this night. Keep us safe. Keep us moving in the union with the spirit to serve the country. Help us again to meet next Thursday as we go to looking at another very important topic. I pray, believing you have heard us through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you all.